host, actually, so I think you have to make me a co-host now and let Mr. O'Connell in.
I'm also, so the mayor knows, I'm recording now to our city website and also to the cloud.
Okay, would you also check the Ken that's on attendee to see if that's Mr. Brown?
Yep, we'll do. Looks like he came in already.
Yeah, he's in, or he just got off.
I did it quickly, Louis.
Okay. I figured that. All right.
Yeah, there's Ken. So we're still waiting for Dr. Ruggles.
He's there.
He's there. Yeah, so it's 1, 2, 3.
Pretty quick since he retired.
6, 7. Okay, we're all here. All city council members are present. I'll call this stated session of city council to order. Please rise or just stay seated for the occasion, followed by the pledge of the flag. I do have a flag. This year has been a hard year for many of us. The challenges we faced this year have been overwhelming. And as we gather today to introduce next year's budget, let us be mindful of our residents that struggle just to put food on their table. During this Thanksgiving holiday, let us be appreciative of what we have and give us the ability to make our city a better place for our residents. In spite of our challenges, we are thankful for all you have given us and our city, our residents as well. Too often we dwell on the many challenges and forget about the many positive things that are happening for our community. And as always, give us peace, not just world peace, but individual peace as well. Peace of mind, peace of heart. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, Mr. Clerk.
Mr. Brown?
Here.
Mr. Ettinger?
Here.
Mr. Ettinger?
Here.
Okay. Mr. Milan?
Here.
Mr. O'Connell?
Here.
Dr. Ruggles?
Here.
Mrs. Volcano?
Here.
Mayor Panzo?
Here. Approval of the agenda.
Move.
Second.
Moved in second. Any additions or deletions? Roll call, Mr. Clerk.
Mr. Ettinger?
Aye.
Mr. Milan?
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell?
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles?
Aye.
Mrs. Volcano?
Aye.
Mayor Panzo?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Action on our minutes of our November 10th stated session.
Move.
Moved.
Second.
Second by Dr. Ruggles. Any additions, deletions, or corrections? Roll call, Mr. Clerk.
Mr. Milan?
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell?
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles?
Aye.
Mrs. Volcano?
Aye.
Mayor Panzo?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Ettinger?
Aye.
At this point in our meeting, we have public comment on agenda items only. If you'd like to, I see there's 10 attendees at the present time. If you'd like to address city council on a agenda item, please raise your hand by going to the bottom, pushing your participant budget button rather, and it'll come up to where you can raise your hand to speak. Anybody from the public? On agenda items only, I see one, Mr. Pachetto.
Go ahead and unmute yourself. Thank you.
Okay, am I muted?
No, you're fine.
unmuted?
You just need
Okay.
your name and address, please.
Sure. My name is Mike Picchetto. My address is 467 Danielle Drive, Nazareth, Pennsylvania.
Spell the last name, please.
P, like Peter, ICHETTO.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Mr. Pachetto, you can start.
Okay, I just wanted to take a moment and talk about the business recovery program. I own Third and Ferry Fish Market in downtown here. we were a member of the first round, participant in the first round of the business recovery initiative, with a large section of Ferry Street getting closed off, in which we put a 20 by 80-foot tent, which frankly allowed us to keep our doors open and the 35 people we have working here employed. I don't know that if that had not happened, I don't know that we would have been able to keep our doors open, as we did not do very well with to-goes, as because we serve seafood, it's not really something that a lot of people take home. So it really it didn't work out as well for us as it did for some of the other restaurants in town. So the first phase of the business recovery was a lifesaver for us, no doubt. We are also involved in the Christmas Village down the circle. We will be opening up one of the huts to run as a bar, as a fundraiser for the State Theater. So I just wanted to thank the city for that opportunity as well. It looks fantastic, and I think it's going to be a real positive addition to the Christmas season in the downtown.
Thank you, Mr. Paquetto. Anyone else like to speak and raise their hand on agenda items only? I see no one with their hand raised at this time. So we'll move on in the meeting to consent agenda, Mr. Clerk.
Okay, under the consent agenda, we have 3 resolutions for approving COAs for 43 South 6th, 45 South 6th, and 158 South 3rd Street.
I move the consent agenda.
Dr. Ruggles moves it, seconded by Mrs. Volcano. Is that you?
Yep.
Thank you. Any comments? Roll call, Mr. Clerk.
Mayor Panto,
Aye.
Mrs. Volcano,
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles,
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell. Mr. O'Connell? You're muted, David.
He's trying to unmute.
Aye. Aye.
Dr. Ruggles?
Aye.
I'm sorry, hold on. Mr. Milan,
Aye.
Mr. Ettinger,
Aye.
and Mr. Brown. Mr. Brown, you're muted.
Aye.
Thank you.
There are no reports to be received by City Council. We'll move right into committee reports. Finance Committee, Councilmember Brown.
Thank you, Mayor. I have nothing on the agenda this evening other than Mark will be giving us an update to year-to-date actuals to the budget all the way through October. And we have the questions that Mr. Milan had asked about last week, and we're going to answer to them so we got the discussion on them. That is all I have for this evening.
Okay. Any questions, comments? Economic Development Committee, Councilmember Volcano.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a resolution J under new business. Hold on. And I believe Director Director Kinsley is available if anyone has any questions. And that's all I have.
Okay, we'll get to that when we get under new business. Planning and Codes Committee, Councilmember O'Connell.
I have no report, Mayor.
Public Safety Committee, Councilmember Ruggles.
I just wanted to report that we did have a meeting of our historical markers this last week, and we're going to move forward contacting. Had about 7 individuals from the public who said that they were interested in participating in this. So we're going to be contacting them, seeing what their area of interest would be, and then hopefully get a board form that will kind of start the ball rolling in that sense. So I will circulate the minutes of that meeting to City Council just so that they know what we talked about and where we are with that.
Very good. Any questions for Dr. Ruggles? Moving on, Public Works, Councilman Ettinger.
Thank you, Mayor. I have no report tonight. I do, however, have several resolutions regarding the purchase of chemicals for wastewater treatment that I will be moving. Thank you.
All right, yeah, you've heard a few of them. Administration Committee, Councilmember Milan? Administration Committee, Councilmember Milan?
You're muted.
Mayor. I have no report, Mayor.
Okay, thank you, Peter. Reporting City Solicitor, Mr. Shearer?
I have no report, Mayor.
Want to report on our executive session?
Oh, thank you very much.
I know it was 10 minutes ago, Joel, and you're.
Yeah, it's my short-term memory isn't really good. If it was like, 2 days ago or a week, maybe I'd remember it. Even better yet, if it was 35 years ago, I'd remember it and tell you a story too. We did meet at 5:30 to talk about various personnel issues. And thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Under my report, the only thing I want to do is give you an update on the village. I got to thank a number of people, including GDP, David Hopkins, and John Kingsley. They did a great job on putting together our winter village within the last 3 or 4 weeks. We were delayed 2 weeks, but that's just because the ice skating rink didn't arrive until literally late last Wednesday afternoon. So the city employees have done a great job. They're out there every day working for the last 3 days. They really have made the city look good, not just with the peace candle, but also with the winter village and the huts. I do want to also thank Home Depot, who not only sourced our huts and got us 20 of them, but also gave us a very good reduced price. That was through Home Depot in Allentown, the Allentown store on 7th Street. Rick Lutz was the manager out there who I made the contact with, and sourcing them from as far away as southern New Jersey and Philadelphia. Also want to thank, as I told Mr. Enninger earlier, the Carpenters Union really stepped up. I want to appreciate them for their volunteer efforts that they put 50% of the huts together. And also we did get assistance from Bi-State Construction, who reduced their price and helped us put together the other 10 of them or 12. So we really have a lot of people who've made this a reality. We have some great things going on. We will be there has been this fear of COVID and what it does to the winter village. It is an outdoor event, can have 2,500 people. Don't expect that many, but we are doing things. We've pushed out the winter huts as far as we could, and trying to keep that 6-foot social distance or more. We will have markers on the sidewalks to get the people to other shops. And before anyone can skate, they have to sign a COVID release, which includes things like making sure they wear their mask. If they don't wear a mask, they can't skate. If they go on to skating without the mask, they have to get off. They also have to sign the release. If a person is under 18, their parent has to be there to sign the waiver. If they're not there, they won't be allowed to skate. So for all the people who contact you, make sure you let them know that. If you're bringing your grandchildren down, that's great, but we will need a waiver signed. The waiver also includes some things about COVID, where you traveled, who you've been around, etc. Your typical COVID, we all signed that at the 2 groundbreakings we went to for the Seville and for Black Diamond, if you remember. And the Yard, we signed them there. But other than that, this Friday is the opening at noon. I want to invite all members of City Council. I've invited Lamont McClure, our county executive, to be there because the county, through the CARES Act, as later on in the budget, has been a super partner for us. It's really nice to have the county and the city working together. And I know they did the same thing with Bethlehem and all the other municipalities. We invited him to our last press conference, and unfortunately he couldn't make it, but he will be there on Friday at noon. And so we kick off the, it is not true. I am not doing a triple axel at noon on Friday. So just so if you hear that rumor, that's not true. But Lamont will be. Go ahead, Sandy.
Where are you going to be having the press conference?
Right in front of the ice skating rink by the skating hut.
Thank you.
Thank you. We also got a great contribution from the Easton Lions Club. The Easton Lions has donated $500 to the first 100 skaters, youth skaters for $5. It's $5 of skate there if you're not an Easton resident. So they get a $5 coupon, which we're going to get out to the various Easton Neighborhood Center, Boys and Girls Club, and Easton Area Community Center, and let them give out $35 coupons to their kids so they can come down and skate for free, even if they're not from the city. And if they're from the city and don't have skates, it'll save them their $5 rental on their ice skates. So all in all, it's up, it's ready to go. We're excited about the enthusiasm, but we want to make sure that we don't have the crowd problems that we expect. Therefore, our entertainment is small groups rather than, like, we're not bringing in Joyous or any of those big bands that would or the Few Good Men or any of them, because they would attract 2,000 people themselves. So the last thing I would say is that for those of you who are coming to the Christmas, the peace candle lighting, that is at 5:30 on Friday night. It is virtual. We will not have a big countdown at throw the switch, but we do have a person who is on eBay right now bidding higher and higher to be the grand illuminator, or whatever they call it, the night illuminator, whatever they're called, from GEDP for Main Street. So we're looking forward to that. The Gretchen Renshaw Award will not be given out that night. We'll do that sometime when the Easton City Council meets in person again. We'll give out that award. But right now, the only thing we're going to be doing is a virtual lighting at 5:30. It's not even going to be at 7:30. It's going to be at 5:30. So the people who come downtown on Saturday night will get to see the candle lit. Any questions?
Lighting is Friday or Saturday?
The lighting is Saturday night.
Yeah, because you said Friday at first.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's a habit. Okay, we'll move on then. There's no correspondence or unfinished business. New business, Mr. Clerk.
We have bill number 32 being introduced by Kenneth Brown, providing revenues and appropriating specific sums to be required for the city budget during the fiscal year of 2021.
Okay, I have a question on this. I realize it's only being introduced tonight. It's not being voted on until December 9th. We have a budget session after this meeting. Mr. Scheer, there has not been any changes to the budget since it was presented on October 1st. This budget does include some changes, although I'm not in favor of them. I would rather introduce the October 1st budget because no city council has not amended it yet. However, if we go into budget session and this budget gets changed, can we still vote on December 9th? Because here's my question. Should we recess this meeting without introducing these two items, then after the budget session, come back in and reintroduce them or introduce them for the first time?
Well, that certainly would be a cleaner way to do it, because then you eliminate that issue. Because now what you vote on will be as revised, and we don't have to get into an issue of whether it's a substantial modification or not. So I think it's actually, as long as you have that option available, which would be to finish the rest of the business, pass on these items, recess, go into the budget session, and then reconvene the city council meeting to vote on the budget that may or may not include these changes. That's what you're asking, right? I mean, that's.
I think it's cleaner. And I would announce it to the public that's on. We have 9 attendees. That the only thing we would do when we come back is introduce the budget. We won't vote on it or anything else, but we'll introduce it so that they don't have to stay on.
Right, and if the public wants, they're certainly invited to stay on.
Absolutely.
But the issue would be these particular items. I mean, you could even, if you wanted to, you could even discuss these items, table them to later this evening, and then go through your budget session if you thought that would be useful for the public dissemination and for those people who will not be put to sleep by listening to this and would rather get off and go to sleep.
Okay, I would move that we table these two bills, Bill 32 and 33, until after our budget session, that we take a recess at the end of all other business being conducted, and that we come back for the sole purpose of introducing the two budget bills.
Excuse me, sir, we don't have to table them. We just don't do them right now.
Yeah, you could pass. When I was suggesting tabling, I just meant that if you wanted to discuss it during the regular meeting, then you don't have to vote on it. You could table it and go back to it after the budget session. That's the only reason I said that. If you want to pass on this altogether, save the discussion as part of your budget session, then it would be just appropriate to pass, agree to put it at the end of the agenda after the recess.
It's just being introduced, so, I mean, there's really no
He
typically
means just to go through. Don't no pass it.
introduced, not
Wrong word.
moved and voted on.
I agree with you, Dr. Ruggles, but if it was up to me, it would be the October 1st proposed budget, because I haven't heard anything different. But the administration did meet. We came up with a number of things to drastically reduce the furloughs from $620,000 down to $241,000. And I think my hope is that before the end of the year, that we don't make any major decisions tonight, that we wait till February when we accrue back all the money that comes in, like business privilege tax, not business privilege tax, earned income tax and stuff that gets, we're on the accrual basis. So we'll still be collecting November and December and January and February. Once that's accrued back, we have some sense of where we're going to end up in the budget for this year. We may eliminate that $240,000 completely. But even if we don't, we have that opportunity in February to say, okay, you know what? COVID's really still bad. The vaccines that we thought we were going to get aren't coming back. They're not going to be out till the end of summer. So we may have to close the pools again. There's $100,000. All I'm saying is that right now is tough to make a decision on what you want to do. I can't make a decision to close the pools now. I don't think anybody else can. But when you're saving a half of that furlough money, it's a pretty easy decision. You'd much rather have your employees working. And I just want to make that clear that, you know, Lewis knows I commented many times that the city just didn't look very good when we had 8 weeks of closure, or more than that. I guess it was 12 weeks ago, because the grass was growing on, the supervisor was trying to keep up with it, the weeds around the landscaping. I mean, the city was getting, it was not, the street sweeping wasn't there. So it wasn't as clean as it normally is. Everything got pushed back. Your paving just got done last week. Those kinds of things, we have the delay. So I think in February, we would be at a much better position to make the tough choices if we have to. I still believe that.
I had previously indicated that you certainly, in the last budget meeting, that the budget is an ongoing process. We have very strict procedures to pass the initial budget, but it's actually quite easy to amend the budget as the year goes on. The only thing is, since this is the introduction of the budget ordinance and the budget meetings is to basically evaluate what's in the budget, it really does make sense to finish that last budget meeting before you actually introduce the ordinance, just in case anything's going to get changed as a result of that discussion. The objective would have been to have the budget meeting first, but the way it was advertised, it's the only reason we're doing it like this. So I do think it makes sense. We want to do it in the open. The public has the ability to sit through the budget meeting and certainly hang on and find the final vote. But I really do think it makes much more sense to have your budget meeting. And then when you introduce whatever the ordinance is, you've done it with the full benefit of all your budget sessions in place. And then if this is different from what you did in October, this is the ordinance you're introducing for action at the next city council meeting.
Thank you. So we'll do. I would change my motion that we pass on item A under new business until after our budget session.
Yeah, it's both bills.
Both bills, correct?
32 and 33.
Yes.
Yeah.
Was that a motion?
That's a motion.
Second.
Dr. Ruggles seconds. Roll call, Mr. Clerk.
Oh my God.
Mr. Brown,
Aye.
Mr. Ettinger,
Aye.
Mr. Milan,
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell,
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles,
Aye.
Mrs. Volcano,
Aye.
Mayor Panto.
Aye. And before we go on, Mr. Clerk, I just want to say, two things I forgot to mention, under my report is, there seems to be some rumor out there that the funding for the Winter Village is coming out of the general fund and affects furloughs. That is not true. And I wish they would stop with that rumor, but obviously rumors, people that don't know better, they just want to just talk as if they do know. But this budget has no impact by the Winter Village. None. Okay, that is not where this money is coming from. This is coming from federal dollars, not local dollars. Secondly, and we can't use it, we cannot use it for employees in deferring furloughs. So just so they understand that, we can't do that. The second thing is, John Kingsley and I had an opportunity to meet with Ari Schwartz and his team about Dutchtown Commons this week. As you all know, the proposed development on the 600 block in Northampton Street. And I have agreed, I've done it already once, and I'll do it again, support a letter of support and to lobby for grant money out at Harrisburg. Unfortunately, right now, Harrisburg is still not reopened. They've been still meeting out there virtually in the governor's office. So, and the Department of Community and Economic Development. But I do want to know that City Council know that we are working to get that project done as much as we're doing with everything else. The south side. The other one that will come up very soon, very shortly, not soon, but shortly, is the next round of tax credits for the Easton Home project at the corner of 10th and Northampton. And we will also I've already provided one letter, but we will also do our due diligence. As you know, Black Diamond did get an allocation of 9% tax-free money, but it took us 2 years. So hopefully we'll get the first year. The Easton Home is owned by Presbyterian Senior Living, which is a well-known commodity around the state. They do some great projects for seniors. And so it's a little bit easier to go there rather than representing an entity that isn't known, has never done a project. So they're the two projects that are coming up. The third project that's coming up, which I do expect some turmoil, I think I mentioned it before, is the Temple Covenant of Peace at the corner of 15th and Northampton Street. I did meet with the members of the synagogue and members of the development team, and so did my staff. And as we expressed to them, we have no decision-making powers there. That'll go through the usual planning commission review. So we'll keep you posted on that. And I know Dave O'Connell is up on that. As the chairman of the planning committee, I know he'll be at that planning commission. Okay, sorry, Mr. Clerk, move on with our all the contracts.
Okay, we have, the first is a resolution being introduced by James Ettinger. It's for Premier Magnesia for the purchase of magnesium hydroxide.
And could you just do all of them at once, but
Okay,
each one's for?
okay. The second one is for Neo Solutions for the purchase of polymer centrifuge. Next one is Neo Solutions again for the purchase of polymer gravity belt thickener. The next one is for Neo Solutions for polymer secondary clarification. The next one is for Northeast Chemical for the purchase of ferrous or ferric chloride. The next one is for Northeast Chemical for the purchase of soda ash. And let's see, next one is for Holland Company for the purchase of sodium bisulfite.
So moved.
Moved, is there a second?
Second.
Moved in second by Vice Mayor Brown. Any questions on these contracts? Obviously, they're all important to the purification of our wastewater before it goes back into the river. Roll call, Mr. Clerk.
Mr. Brown,
Aye.
Mr. Ettinger,
Aye.
Mr. Milan,
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell,
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles,
Aye.
Mrs. Volcano,
Aye.
Mayor Panto.
Aye.
Okay, we have a resolution being introduced by Salvatore J. Panto Jr. Do you want me to read the whole thing, sir, or just a now therefore?
No, just a now therefore is fine.
Okay, now therefore be it resolved by the council of the city of Easton, Pennsylvania, that one, the mayor or his designee is authorized to apply for the local share account for Monroe County program for the amount and purpose set forth above. That's for $300,000 or not to exceed $300,000. Number two, the mayor is authorized to enter into a grant agreement with the Pennsylvania Department of Community and Economic Development should the application be successful, subject to review by the city solicitor or assistant solicitor. Number three, this resolution shall take effect immediately upon adoption.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? This is the start of the Local Shares Act, which is really important for this project. Roll call.
Mr. Brown,
Aye.
Mr. Ettinger,
Aye.
Mr. Milan,
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell,
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles,
Aye.
Mrs. Volcano,
Aye.
Mayor Panto.
Aye.
Okay, we have a resolution being introduced by Sandra Volcano. Now therefore be it resolved,
Can
council
you
has,
summarize it, Tommy? Mr.
Yes.
Clerk?
well, it's for a COVID-19 grant. County block grant of the May 29th, 2020. Is that fine?
Because I don't know if anybody has any questions about it. Mr. Kingsley is standing by.
I sent a copy of this out in the packets.
Right.
It needs to be moved first and seconded.
Yeah, we're gonna move it first. Mrs.
I'll move
Volcano-
it.
Sandy Volcano moves it. Is there a second?
Second it.
Seconded by Mr. O'Connell. Councilmember
Yeah, I'll
O'Connell.
second it.
Okay, Mr. O'Connell, thank you. Discussion, if there is any. Roll call.
Mr. Ettinger,
Aye.
Mr. Milan,
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell,
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles,
Aye.
Mrs. Volcano,
Aye.
Mayor Panto,
Aye.
Mr. Brown.
Aye.
At this time, I'll open up the floor to public comment on any matter concerning the city of Easton. Comments, concerns, or questions? I have one, there's a hand raised. It must be Joe. It says Quadrant.
I do.
Name and address, please.
Joe Moranville, 20 North 3rd Street.
Oh, it was you, Joe, but I wasn't sure. Okay, go ahead.
It is. I just wanted to make a comment about the Winter Village and let you know how appreciative I am for this effort. I think that it is exceptional. I think that it is a foothold into truly taking our place during Christmas in the Valley. And I think it's going to, over time, as it grows, become a really important economic boom for the city. And I think the merchants are going to really, really do well with it. I don't know if we'll do well with it this year. I think we're all going to go give it our best effort, but I think it's going to be a great opportunity to see how it went and look at it and get ready for next year when everybody comes back and we really can show it off. So I just wanted to say thank you for the effort, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Thank you, Joe. I appreciate all your help. When I saw you down there yesterday with Joanne and working hard, I appreciate the amount of volunteer hours already is immense. I'm just appreciative of your efforts. So thank you very much. And I too agree that next year will even be better. I also see Joanne Durante is up and she's brought into the room. So Joanne, give your name and address, please.
Hey, good evening, everyone. Joanne Durante, 6 Charles Court in Easton, live in the township, grew up in the city, major volunteer. I just want to speak out to everyone so that everyone knows how wonderful it's been. I was very grateful to be asked to be on this committee to get the Winter Village up and running. And I never saw a group of people work so hard, so quickly. with a small vision to try to get where we are today. It actually brought a tear to my eye yesterday when I went down to take a look at the Santa hut and the North Pole hut, because it was a dream on a Zoom call, and without all the parties, the mayor, John Kingsley, Marek, Mr. Hopkins, and the people from GEDP, Marcy and Kim, who I'm so used to working with for the Peace Candle. I can't believe all the people that work to get this done, and a special shout out to all the city workers and the construction guys who've been at this daily. It's one thing to have a vision, but to see it pulled off, I'm really excited. And I just want to thank everybody for letting me be a part of it. And I want to thank everybody for working hard to get it where it is. And I agree with the gal before me. I think it has a lot of potential for the city. And I think the people are going to come down, and I think they're going to stay safe also.
Thank you, Joanne. Again, appreciate your efforts as well. I saw you down there. Well, you've been on every one of our Zoom calls. You were with that gal. You called her a gal, Joanne Moranville. So we're really excited. And you mentioned Dave Hopkins and Marek and John Kingsley. I couldn't do it without their leadership. They've done a great job. But our city employees have been phenomenal. Working there. When I talked to them today, they were beaming. They were just so happy to see something that they do. Normally, they're cleaning leaves or cutting grass. This is something that's really has taken on a life of its own. So I think the city employees were not only passionate about doing this, but they saw all the volunteers helping out. It was really a great effort. So thank you, Joanne.
Thank you. Thank you for letting me be a part of it. It's great community spirit. It feels good.
Sure is. It brings back my community spirit days back in the JCs up at Hackett Park. Next, who's next? Jared Mast.
Can you hear me?
Sure can.
All right. Just want to echo Joe and
Jared,
Joanne's.
I need your address, please.
325 Northampton Street, Easton, PA. Just want to echo Joe and Joanne's comments, and kudos to city workers and also GDP staff and volunteers who have kind of made this happen in very quick order. Obviously, 2020 is not the year we expected it to be, and I just excited to build on this in future years. I think on GDP side, we've been trying to make smart investments through CARES and stimulus funding and grant funding related to COVID that helps us get through this, but also provides strength and opportunity into the future. So with the skating rink and the Christmas Village, I think it's a great new tradition to complement the Peace Candle lighting and that longer standing tradition. And just want to compliment Dave Hopkins, John Kingsley, Mark, and the city staff for making it happen. GDP staff is going to be tasked with some operational roles of the skating rink and some of the huts. Talked to a number of business owners. They seem to be excited to participate. I think some business owners are going to see this and maybe have some pangs of regret and want to be part of it next year. And I think it'll build, and as we get past COVID, we'll have more opportunity around this. And as Joanne said, sets a precedent for a stronger holiday season in Easton. And obviously that's important for our retailers and service industry workers, et cetera. So just want to thank and echo their comments.
And I would like to thank you, Jared. Your partnership with the city and GDP as a whole, the partnership has been so successful over the last 15 years. Well, I guess it's 13 or 14 years that GDP was actually took over from EEDC, Eastern Area Economic Development Corporation. It's been phenomenal, and I can't thank your group for taking over the operation of the skating rink, and also for the council members. We do have Easton sweatshirts, hats, coffee mugs, shot glasses, and water bottles that we are selling there because we wanted to have some Easton memorabilia to be sold. It's in demand. GDP has also agreed to sell that at their hut. And also, I want to thank City Council right now for your support of the resolution of the CARES Act from the county, the $1.39 million. I want to especially thank you for the $40,000 contribution to the State Theater. If we all know, those of us who've been here, we all know that we've been in business this long. that the State Theater is really where it started. It's not only an iconic theater that brings great entertainment at reasonable prices, but it's also been the real economic development engine that started everything. And I remember when I was in office last time, we gave them $1 million loan to get the the Center for the Arts completed and finished the $6 million restoration of the theater. It was the same night that we did the homeless shelter at Safe Harbor and donated that building and got Safe Harbor started. And tonight, this part of the CARES Act coincides with what you've done with the initial money that was presented, with the money we put for homeless prevention and homelessness. And Mr. Kingsley is going to be giving you an update. John, when do you expect to give him that? About, the Third Street Alliance and Safe Harbor, all that we're talking about right now. When do we expect to present that to council?
Mayor, that's going to be imminent. It's definitely going to be probably in the next, I would say within 30 to 60 days.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I know we work on it and we just talked about it again yesterday. And I think, we can't forget that unfortunately in our city, which is the good part about our city is our diversity, we have the very wealthy and those that can do well. And we have the very poor. And a large part of our population lives below the poverty level, and we can't forget about them. And the initial money went to them, to some of them, and with homeless prevention, et cetera. But there's more that we're going to do, and I really feel good about that. And City Council, I want to thank you all for your cooperation on the team, because it's been a team effort. And wherever I go, I always thank members of council for making it that this team works so hard to get things done. So, there's a COVID pandemic out there, but knock on wood, thank God, we have not been impacted as hard as some communities. Our town is much more resilient. We're more determined. We are culturally and socioeconomically diverse, but yet we all get along. And I think that's important. We had protests in Easton, but we didn't have looting and rioting. I mean, that's just not us. And I want to thank everyone on City Council for being a part of the resiliency of dealing with the pandemic. Because when I go on my Zoom calls and talk to people all over the country, let me tell you something. There's some horror stories out there, and it's not us. So we're very fortunate. And I thank God every night when I go to sleep that we made it through another day. And I want to thank you all. Is there anyone else?
Mayor, can I just say something?
Go ahead, Mrs. Rakim.
I just want to also echo what you just said, because the staff of the economic development, part of the city, and also all the other employees have really pitched in to make all this happen and get us through this trying year so far. And hopefully it's going to start to end after we get into the new year. But it's going to really be nice downtown. I mean, there's so many people all the time. There's never any parking. It's, we're just getting a lot of people coming into the city, and it's we are surviving. So we just have to have faith. But thank you to everybody, all the agencies, all the volunteers, because yous are really making it work. Thank you.
It's nice to know that there's light at the end of the tunnel and it's not an oncoming train.
Yeah.
Anyone else? I'll look for a motion to adjourn.
No, sir. We're just going to recess and then come back.
Oh, that is correct. We are ready to do that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Mr. Clerk.
I'm sorry. I jumped up and realized I was mute. We have to just move to recess and then reconvene.
Okay, I will tell there's still 8 members of the public on the call and a couple staff members also. We will come back. It may be 10 minutes, it may be 2 hours. I don't know. But I will tell you that we will not do anything other than introduce 2 bills about the budget, which will be voted on not until December 9th. So if you're on here for any reason other than that, please feel free to leave.
Yeah, the remaining items of business will be the introduction of Bill 32 and 33, the exact form of which may be different from what was in the package depending on what's discussed.
Correct. Okay, thank you all. We'll see you, oh no, we're gonna just
Just stay where you are.
Let's stay where we are. I keep forgetting we're on Zoom.
Don't you
All
have to
right,
take
this
vote
time,
for
For members of the public, I strongly recommend if you don't like someone, you should tell them to sign up and come in to watch this.
Are you saying it's it's even more fun to watch paint dry?
Well, you know what? I really should figure out a way to tape it so I can listen to it when I'm going to sleep instead of listening to sleep stories.
It's already taped.
Oh, okay. Yeah, good idea.
Now.
We might be able to set up a little franchise, an app, sell ads.
Oh, yeah? Well, maybe.
It might be more popular than my Law and Order City Solicitor series.
Vice Mayor Brown, I'll turn it over to you to start the budget hearing. You're muted.
Excuse me, I'm just going to step away from my desk while this is all going on then.
Thank you.
At this point, Mayor, I'm going to turn it over to Mark.
There's Mark. He's not, there's no video. That's even better.
That's all right. I'll just.
Oh,
jump
there
in.
he is.
All right, there you go.
Thanks, Mayor.
That's okay. I figured I'd take Dave Hopkins' place.
Oh, okay. Mayor, so essentially the administration submitted a budget because we had just it was a matter of process, and we had a timeline issue that we had to submit something to Tom Hess. And we submitted some changes, but under your recommendation, you would like to discuss those changes before anything is made. So therefore, what we've submitted should be reverted back to your the original budget, the mayor's budget, quote unquote, that you had submitted to council. So Mayor, how do you want to go through the all the options? I mean, we can do whatever you want.
What I'm saying, what I was saying is that when you and I and Mark met and talked about the staffing changes, et cetera, to get us from the 620 to 241, that may be what we decided on trying to cut down on the furloughs. But I don't know if city council members, if that's a majority of the thinking. And so I wanted to go back to our original budget that was presented on October 1st, and then Mark tell us how we got to the 241 that was presented in the package, and if everybody agrees with it. I mean, there's over $600,000 in staffing changes, $200,000 plus coming directly from general fund, but there's other line items and other budgets that do impact the general fund. But I think, maybe someone has a real strong inclination that, we need a recreation director, or we need a staff of 2, not just 1 next year. But I also want to be mindful of the fact that we'd be keeping it vacant, but that doesn't mean in 2022, it doesn't get back in our budget. Again, as I told city council last week, I look at this as a bridge budget. How does it get us back to where we were in 2020, back in 2022? We know that we can't do it in 2021, but I don't want to lose those positions for 2022. We've delayed hiring. For example, I'm willing to go another quarter without an administrative assistant, but I can tell you, I don't need people like John Kingsley and David Hopkins and myself and Lewis working on the Winter Village. I mean, I need a staff person that can do that. Our time is spent much better doing other things. More important things, no, they're not. They're all important, but just other things. And I'm ordering mugs online and stuff like that. We just need to get back to where we were when we were building an economy and a city that was very strong. I'm including in here the delaying purchase of all the new vehicles. It's only $50,000, but it's also the elimination of summer nights at $25,000. I'm recommending things in here that I don't know if we have city council approval on. And I think we should talk about that. So we can start there, Mark. And then how did you get to the 241? We can start at the 241 later, but at least get consensus that we agree to go to the 241.
And just so council's aware, so Mark, you can show your screen. The mayor's memo in this budget are slightly different, and that was done in a perfect world, we wouldn't have submitted it, but we were crunched under a deadline. So Mark, why don't you walk us through this budget that was submitted in the packet, which shows the employee savings line item that we talked about last week, which is the furlough line item, quote unquote. That was reduced from just over 600,000 to just to about 240 some thousand, which is slightly less than 1 month's worth of furloughs. So how did we get there, Mark? Because like the mayor said, there are some assumptions that are made here that need to be brought to council's attention.
Sure. If council recalls, at our last budget hearing, we did propose a couple of changes that were related to, basically maybe truing up or getting more solid numbers in some of the funds. There was concern about a run rate in 203 and the expenses there. So we made adjustments and presented those last time. In addition, we had $30,000 here for the unemployment solvency fee, which we plan to pay in 2021 as well as this year for next year.
Can I interrupt you a second, Mark?
No, please.
There's $30,000, Louis. We've never paid this in the past. We've never laid people off. We did this year and we got stuck because we didn't have the solvency fee paid. If we eliminate the 241, do we need the $30,000 solvency fee? I should have asked you earlier, but I didn't.
Mayor, absolutely. This is not the year to gamble on that number.
Okay, all right.
Okay, so starting from there, the budget that's in council's packet that Tom sent out earlier includes a number of changes. On a line-by-line basis, it gets a little bit muddy because what we did with the staffing changes that the mayor noted, we did push those down to the actual department and bureau levels. So everything from salaries and benefits, funneled through there. So you'd have, basically, like I said, salaries and benefits across all, various departments. So it does get a little messy, but at a high level, what we did is in 101 with the either elimination of some positions or the maybe shortening of the window. If we had somebody in for the full year, we pushed them out for half a year, things like that. We saved approximately $188,000 in salaries and then another $8,400 in benefits.
Mark,
yep.
And this is an important line item. Do you have that other chart that were you able to prepare something that shows which vacancies were affected?
Sure. So here are the positions for council in column F. This is the original budget that the mayor presented on October 1st. Here is our new headcount or revisions, and then the variances. Now, these are not necessarily obviously a one-for-one, right, where we're taking somebody out for the full year. So there are partial year impacts. In the finance department in particular, we had initially budgeted just about 2 revenue agents. But after considering the candidates that we got, the strong candidates that we have, we reshuffled that and are actually bringing in a less expensive clerk up front to help support and backfilling our floating clerk. So I think between that, we'll have not only a cost savings, but we'll be able to have a very vibrant team there. There are other assumptions here in the other departments that were made. And again, these changes drove that $188,000 or $190,000+ when you add in benefits in savings.
What staff make up the planning department?
We did have a zoning officer position in that department. Well, maybe I should back up, Mr. Milan. historically, the planning and codes department had been two separate departments. They were combined, I believe, last year or even a year and a half ago. We have not combined those yet in the budget just for historical reference purposes. So,
So what makes up $108,000 salary in the budget for next year? If we're not combining departments and we don't really have any staff in that department.
I'm sorry, in the line
In the planning department, you have a budgeted amount of $108,000. So I'm not sure what staff make up 101-4000-4131? Because I don't know if you're knocking down a 0.5 from, is that correct? You're knocking a zoning person from 1 to 0.5?
actually, it was from, I believe,
0.5 to 0.
0.5 to 0.
So, okay. So if that's your, so what staff members make up that line item then? Do we know?
Yeah, I would have to pull that up. Hang on just a moment. Okay, in the planning department, we have a chief planning officer. We had originally budgeted half of a chief zoning officer and then the junior foreman. So there were basically 2.5 head count in that department, or in that bureau, if you want to call it that, in the the mayor's original budget proposal.
So you have $129,000 in salaries. For how many people?
For 2.5.
The junior foreman is in that department?
Correct.
And not in
Well, it's not that that person's in that department. It's in the planning codes department.
Well, they're separate, but they're segregated, Mayor.
I know, but that when the planning department was there,
right,
that was the clerk that was in that department. Now that person is a junior foreman in the planning codes department. And I know they're separated. They've never been joined because the goal is to get back to having a planning director. I mean, it's somewhat crazy not having a planning director.
Right, but I don't. Okay, I mean, the numbers just don't seem like they're jiving then, if that's the case. So the junior foreman is in planning, the chief planning officer is in planning, and who else? Who else is that?
There was a chief zoning officer, half of a chief zoning officer.
So that's between planning and codes, correct?
That is in, the planning department, Department 4000, as opposed to the codes department. Yes.
Where's the other 0.5 coming from then?
I'm sorry?
Where is the other 0.5 coming from then?
Nowhere. We were basically, the assumption was that the person would be hired mid-year. So that's why you're counting half of a person.
Okay. So okay, it seems overinflated, honestly.
Mark, you want to get a breakdown of that department?
I mean, we can go on. I mean, just go on. It's I mean, it
If
just,
you look at the,
between planning and codes, it's very, like, we don't know what the staff count is for each department. I mean, you have 2.5 people that are budgeted for planning, and you have the entire code staff. Is the director of codes, is his salary? It's not actually. So we're not moving any part of the director's salary into planning anymore, correct?
correct.
Okay. Okay. Mayor, so you want to keep that segregated then, even though they're kind of one department though?
Well, they're one department now because we have somebody that can do both jobs, and we have an individual who has not been able to get certified as a professional planner. The goal then, and there was incentives given
Sure.
for him to get that, and hasn't gotten it yet. But I would think a city our size should have a planning director.
Right, but I mean, is it necessary to keep them separate though? That's my question.
Oh, I don't know that it's necessary to keep them separate. I think the original budgets from way back when the
Right.
city took this form of government, they had, every director had a budget.
Sure. But there's no director there. That's a difference though with this.
Yeah, I mean, you could have two directors in the same department. Planning and code, you have one code administrator and one planning administrator.
Right, you could do that.
Sure, absolutely.
But, okay.
Mark, your screen went blank. You're back on the agenda now.
Yep. Sorry, just moving this back over. Okay, so the headcount assumptions here was the original budget, and then here are the ones that are in council's packet right now, and that's again what's driving the the $190,000+ reduction in headcount related expenses. Okay, so if we now jump back over to the kind of the fuller picture.
Wait, make sure this council see all that, because I know this is presented to you quickly. Make sure they understand each of those lines.
Each of the lines in this view?
No,
No, in the previous view.
in the prior
Okay,
view.
sorry.
Each of those positions. So let me just, the mayor's executive assistant will be hired for 3/4 of a year. That's a change from a full year. The revenue agent, instead of having 1 3/4, you're just going to hire 1. The clerk 1 in finance, let's see, it was 0 to 1 just because of Mark, and the clerk 1 in floater, Mark discussed what those changes. The deputy fire chief, instead of 1, it's 0.75. We talked about the chief zoning officer. The DPW summer help goes from 10 to 2.5. Those are FTEs, so you fill them up with part-timers. Driver laborer 1, that's an open position. It goes from 1 to 0. Assistant engineer 0.5 to 0.25. So that means instead of hiring them halfway through the year, you'll hire them in the 4th quarter. Equipment operators, you go from 6 to 5. And a supervisor, this is in the rec department, you go from 0.5, hiring them mid-year to 0. That's how you get to the $188,000 in savings. This is completely up to city council whether or not you want to make these changes.
Right, but we have to understand that if we promote somebody from within to the deputy fire chief, it's going to affect the manning.
Yes, it will.
So I'm not sure if that number is accurate to correlate that to a dollar savings then. It's going to be negated because of manning. So I don't think that $188,000 is completely accurate.
Are there any other questions on the head count?
So you're acknowledging that then, or you're not acknowledging it?
We're acknowledging the fact that we're delaying the hiring of a chief until the 2nd quarter to save manning money in the 4th and 1st quarter, 4th quarter this year, 1st quarter next year.
Yeah, you're going to have that. You're going to.
You're absolutely right. Peter, you're absolutely right, and that's why this decision is made.
Right.
You're going to have it regardless. I mean, if you do it in the beginning or you do it a quarter of the way through.
Right, but you're saving money, but theoretically you're not saving money because you're going to increase another firefighter then once that person gets promoted.
Maybe, depends on the manning, depends if you're at 15 or 14. I mean, this is too vanilla to make probably that kind of assumption, but that could happen.
But it's based on the CBA though, too. I mean, you have a manning requirement.
Well,
So, I mean,
yeah, like I said, there's many different variables. If we're at 15 and, 15 was one greater than the 14, which we had 4 guys off at any time. Injuries is the one that brought us under manning. At 15 going into the new year, that could assist us. This is just, all this is presenting something to dwindle down. You can see it gets more difficult. So this is just an option. We're just presenting this to you. Are there any other questions? Roger, I'm sorry. Did you say you had a question?
No, that's right.
All right. So this is one view, and we'll move on.
Okay, so we'll now jump back to the other changes. And again, just for point of reference, this is the original budget as of 10/1. This is the one that's in your packets, and then the change between the two. So some of and the mayor noted, I believe, all of these in his memo. So some of the ways that we got the $620,000 employee savings line, or that furlough line, down was by taking out purchase of new meters. We thought that maybe we can get by this year with purchasing batteries and not replacing all the meters. They are kind of at their end of life. With the cell technology that's built in, we are going to have to replace them, but we thought that maybe we could, like I said, squeak by with just replacing more batteries. There's a feeling that we could reduce the legal expenses. Also, we moved out some repairs and maintenance into the capital budget fund, into 151, and we kept that fund 151 neutral by removing, as the mayor noted, purchase of new vehicles. So over the last couple of years, to remind council, we've been on about $50,000 program to finance new vehicles. And so we're going to forgo that, or I'm sorry, we're not going to forgo that. The proposal is that be forgone for 2021 to allow us to, as I said, push some of the expense out of 101, get it into 151, and push down that employee savings line. Here again was the combined total of the employee savings that we saw on the prior page. And here is that net impact, taking us from 620 to 241, or $378,000 combined change. As noted, 151, here was that movement, the reduction in vehicle purchases so that we could keep our sanitary sewer repairs, or the repairs maintenance that we had listed up here in this line, moved it down to here. Headcount reductions in the 202 fund. We also thought, just given the current environment, that spring sports are probably going to be under some pressure. Not sure if those are going to happen, so we cut the registration fees in half in this proposal. And last but not least, as far as items that are included in this budget view, was the reduction in healthcare claims. So we've got those listed here. Additional scenarios, again, that were touched in the mayor's memo and discussions were closing.
Well, Mark,
Yeah,
so
sorry.
that is what got us to that 243 mark for the furloughs. All of the changes that you just proposed above.
Is there any
that was
questions
submitted.
about that?
Now, if you want to continue to further dwindle down.
Well, let's
that
get
furlough
consensus
line
on whether
item.
Louis, can we find out if we have consensus on these changes?
Sure, because it seems like it seems like there was some discussion on several other line items.
Dr. Ruggles.
I just have a question. I had asked a couple of budget meetings ago, and maybe last one, related to our payments on our street sweeper and why they weren't coming out of MS4. As I recall, that was a fairly significant number. What is the story on that?
The initial, well, the way we set up the lease was that part of it was coming out of liquid fuels, and part of it, I believe, was coming out of MS4, and so that's where the offsets were for the sweeper. So I'm sorry, we split it between the two funds.
But I mean, just because we set it up originally that way doesn't mean that we have to keep on doing that forever. I mean, you know, if we I recognize that the money that's in liquid fuels potentially could be used for something that is actually in the budget, which would then reduce our expenditures. I mean, I don't understand why we wouldn't be able to do the MS4 because for the lease payment for the street sweeper, because it is a best practices. I mean, that it's exactly what is in the best practices scenario for MS4. And if we can take that money out of the MS4 fund and then use the liquid fuels to purchase stuff that we would normally purchase out of the budget, we would free up that money. I mean, I just on top of my head, I thought it was $80,000, but I'm not sure exactly if I don't have that right in front of me.
I think the lease is 106, and I think half of it was going to well, either fund. But yeah, that's $50,000 that we could potentially free up.
No, well, just to clarify that, the street sweepers is not 100%. It's not 100% stopping sediment to go into our waterways. That's why the percentage was allocated, because a portion of it can be charged to MS4, but not the entire thing, because the part of the objective of the street sweeper is also obviously to clean the streets. And I know you could say, well, they can and are supposed to could help 100% control sediment, but
I think the reason why is because our permit is only to reduce sediment in the Lehigh. So there's a lot of areas where we're sweeping that go into the Delaware, and therefore it cannot be covered by the MS4. I think that was the reason. Now, Dr. Ruggles is right. We could probably change it, but I think we run the risk of that permit saying Lehigh. It doesn't say the Delaware. It's like,
I think it's more technical, and we can get you a detailed response immediately. I apologize for not having that right now.
maybe you can text David right now.
I did.
Okay.
I called him.
All right.
But it's more detailed than just, part of it is just I think the definition and what is allowable, but we have to get that. I mean, what's in there is, I think, the maximum that we can charge MS4.
Well, I mean, I understand that, but I mean, if we build a detention basin, which would be a best practices in the MS4, it's doing other things than just removing sediment. Yet we're going to spend 100% of our MS4 money on that detention basin. So the fact is that a street sweeper is a best practices. And in order for us to have one, we have to pay the lease payment on it. And so I mean, I don't know. I mean, I've read a lot about the MS4, and I've not gotten into the finance aspect of it, but I mean, the street sweeper is a best practices. And a detention basin is a best practice, but it's not going to, it's going to do a lot more than just remove sediment.
I'm open to it, Dr. Ruggles, and I'll get an answer immediately. I don't disagree, and I think part of it could be the Lehigh versus the Delaware, but Dee was adamant about that, keeping it at that percentage. So we have to dig into how we got to that budget, and that goes back when we were working with the consultants. But we'll get that to you.
I mean, if we're going to dive into MS4, then I'd really like to see a more detailed explanation about the $620,000 savings account for employees and how we got down to 241. Like, what portion of that do we pay? Because we're self-insured. We're self-insured, correct?
Yes.
Okay. I mean, if we're going to break down MS4 and the lease payments, then I'd like to see a more analytical model with regards to employee savings, because that seems like a lot of money, but are we really saving that since we're self-insured? What part of that is reimbursed by the state? I'm just not convinced that's a number we should be looking at.
Mark, do you want to explain it to Peter?
Well, with the solvency fee that we are paying this year, which would be basically our insurance, insurance plan, if you will, for unemployment for next year, that would, I believe, alleviate the city's portion of unemployment compensation were people to be, put out on furlough. Typically, when employees are put out on a furlough or you are let go, they would be able to collect approximately 50% of their salary
right.
unemployment. So the assumption here is that with the solvency fee being paid in 2020, that the savings would be kind of fully coming to the city.
What is the solvency fee?
The solvency, the amount, or what is it specifically?
The fee.
The fee is just under 30,000.
Could you show them the line item? Because we've been talking about that. If you can highlight it, Mark. It's on the screen. It's actually right there. No, you had it just on the prior view. The $30,000, 254.
Yeah, oh, I'm sorry. Yes, up here.
We've budgeted 0 in prior years, so we have to budget now 30,000 for it.
Was it 130 or 30? I'm sorry.
30.
I think you said 130. Okay.
Typically, on unemployment, historically, we've come under $30,000 as an expense. So the decision, even before we got here, was made not to fund that, not to pay for that insurance, if you will. And the perfect storm came. And I would tell you that like a lot of our sister cities were caught without having to have paid that insurance. So now everyone's paying that insurance this year. Fortunately for the city, though, we got CARES money that help offset the expense that we had.
Okay.
Now, the one thing that doesn't include is benefits, but this year in 2020 with CARES Act, we got also our benefits reimbursed, so that was positive. We got lucky. What is the total lease payment on that for the sweeper, Mark, that we're talking about anyway? If we were to look at that expense, just to give us an idea of how much.
Actually, I thought it was 106, but I think that was another lease that we had. I think it's closer to about 120, a bit over 120.
Okay. And then a portion of it right now is being funded out of MS4?
Correct.
All right. So
half, yeah, 50.
Half. All right. So the net, if anything, if you're keeping score, the net would be probably an additional 60,000 or so that it could impact this if we can move that over. So just keep that in mind. All right, what else do we, okay, so then, so the green is what we initially talked about. The orange is what we inadvertently, so to speak, because of Tom Hess's pressure to get a budget in, we put into the budget for the agenda. And then the final piece is what the mayor was talking about. If you scroll down further.
Sure.
Okay, before you scroll,
Yeah. Keep it there, Orange.
so the 188,000 in line 23, 23, that's the savings from the staff changes that you showed in the previous.
Yes.
Directly below that are benefits. Is that the savings on the benefits for that group of people?
Correct.
You mean we're only paying 5% as far as benefits are concerned? That seems like a very low number.
No, that doesn't include health or insurance. That just includes our share of Social Security and unemployment tax, et cetera. That's the payroll deductions.
Yes, sorry. It's not necessarily, I'm sorry, that's a bad use of maybe an inappropriate word there. Not really benefits, but FICA and the like.
Okay, that's better. I was going to say, benefits are a much higher percentage than that.
That's you see on the bottom where it says the health claims, we reduced that by 50,000.
I will tell you that's as much as that I'm willing to recommend. I wouldn't go any deeper than that.
No, I'm saying it's $50,000. That's what it's for. Those people who have been not coming back.
Yep. So then, all right. So in this, again, this budget, we have 240 some thousand in that furlough line item. As you can see, we moved some things around. We didn't hire. We kept vacancies open. You know, we made some decisions about certain departments, et cetera. You know, it's not 100% accurate. It's constantly, it's a moving target. But then in addition to that, there are some bigger picture type of decisions that would have to be made regarding expenses. Number one is shutting down pools. Number two is would be the summer nights program. Number three could be increasing parking meters by 50 cents. And four could be the trash collection fees, if you will.
These are, again, just some of the ideas that we came up with to help close that gap. But obviously, we're obviously open to any suggestions that council would have.
The garbage fee. If we went with that what would that number look like per household, per payment? The $5?
Well, the scenarios that I laid out here are basically, $1. Let's say even more basically, for every $1 that you were to raise trash, it would be about $90,000.
So okay, that's the impact. Okay, gotcha. Okay.
So yeah, $5 would be 450,000.
Yeah,
roughly.
You could take all of the changes that we recommended in the budget that you have in your packet, raise trash $3, which I would do, but you could raise tax and then eliminate all the furlough line with that one action.
Mm-hmm.
My question is, if you raise the trash bill, does that also impact the seniors bill because they get a discount? Everybody does.
That number does, yes.
Would be go across the board?
This assumes an across the board view.
Okay.
There aren't, there are some senior discounts or some folks who are getting senior discounts, but it's not a very large percentage. It'd probably be several hundred off of the, say 9,000 that we've got or 8,000 accounts that we have.
It's because we went out at this, Mark, a little ad nauseum internally, but it was roughly around 8,100 total units, if you will, plus or minus at any given time 100 going either way. It could be up 100, down 100, whatever. And you had about, as Mark said, about 400 or so, maybe between 200 and 400 seniors So it was about 7,500, roughly a number that you look at that are non-seniors. Again, they're all a moving target. It's depending on when you run the report.
Or you could raise the $5, open the pools next year, raise the meters of $1.50, and no one gets furloughed. And you have some form of normalcy for children in next year, potentially. Or you have a pad for next year then.
Now the other option is, as the mayor had mentioned, this is a moving target. All of it is. You can continue to manage on a almost on a council meeting by council meeting basis, and make amendments when necessary, and then make the decision regarding the pools when you know whether or not when we can provide direction, or when we know whether or not it makes sense to keep them open or keep them closed. But that you would have to do by probably April at the very latest.
But I guess I'm unclear as to why there's so much opposition to consider raising garbage fees when it's a $600,000 increase next year. That's substantial.
In order to answer that question, I'd like to go into an executive session.
I mean, okay. We just had an executive session now. Like, I don't.
And I don't believe it's necessarily appropriate for an executive session. It's just that garbage fees cannot be raised just to raise revenues. They have to be commensurate with the actual cost of obtaining that service.
Well, it proves my point. Then we're increasing the fee to equate to the $600,000 increase next year. Like,
you can't use that analysis. You have to look at what your total costs are going to be and how the fees that we currently charge relate to that new cost.
Well, is it mathematics or something else then? I'm unclear.
Mathematics. The mathematics you have to use is what the cost will be in 2021 based on the new contract, and what the fees would be that we would raise relative to that, so that the fees that are relative to the cost of the service do not exceed without an operational margin or cushion that you might be able to justify because of lack of collections, etc. So it should not be used.
Let me make
this comment. Be used to offset other expenses in a budget.
Joel, let me just make this comment, because the other rumor out there is that I somehow made a campaign promise that I would never raise fees or taxes. That's bullshit. I've never made that campaign promise.
Okay.
I've never made that. So the people who are on this call that are listening, that is not what I said. What I said is I would never raise taxes if I don't need to, but the city needs to run. And right now, the city, under the state law, cannot raise trash fees. It's that simple. We can't make money on a utility that's a monopoly in the city. You require all city residents to get their trash from Republic. We get the Republic contract, we tack on what I think is an exorbitant administrative fee to enforce those contracts. And I thought we could go into an executive session because in my mind, we open ourselves up to a Lou Reiner that we had back during the Mittman administration, attempting to sue the city because our utility fees are too high, according to the state law. This gets us at least a little bit closer, not a lot, but $600,000 closer.
But I don't understand something, Mayor. I mean, I have to interrupt you. I don't understand something. In fact, I have to kind of disagree with Joel. If it's a mathematical equation, if we pay $1 million today and it's going up by $600,000 next year, that's $1.6 million. That equates to roughly $6 a month for each account. Is that correct? So I don't understand the legal conundrum you're presenting to me. If I say that if it goes up by this amount of money divided by these accounts, that's the amount of money we should be increasing the fee to. I don't understand why math is different.
Because for the last 20 years, the city was making too much money on it. You're making me
But
say
that-
things I don't want to say. In a
But
public
Mayor, I don't, but that's not, but I can't, with all due respect, like, I'm not sure how that's our problem though. I don't know
What
how-
do you mean, Peter? It's our responsibility, the city's responsibility to budget, to charge fees commensurate with actual expenses.
But Joel, who's that fall on though? The legislative body or the administrative body?
It's state law. It's not us.
Well, then so then I don't know how we're having this discussion then. If we, if
Why
we're
don't we
making
go
it-
to Harrisburg and have them change the whole state income tax?
you know what, you can work on that, Joel, in your free time. My
Well,
issue
I'm
is,
just saying it's not a practical thing you're saying. I don't want to go into an executive session to talk about what we do, opening us up to a lawsuit.
all I care
I
about
can only
is,
tell
all I
you
care
what
about
you're
is the
allowed
va-
to do.
all I care about is the variance. That's all I care about. What's the variance between what we're paying today and what's it next year? And how do we make that money back by charging an extra fee then? Like, it's arithmetic. I don't understand this.
I believe
Our
you're
fees are
proposing-
increasing. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't know what to say. If we're charging way too much, then that's not on us. It's on somebody else who did this then.
Your municipal.
It's on you. You voted for this budget last year.
I didn't vote, but it's not my, I didn't charge this garbage fees from 20 years ago though. I wasn't here 20 years ago.
It doesn't matter. The city was. It's not,
Right,
they're
but-
not suing you, they're suing the city.
But that's the thing. I don't understand why, but then, so we're going to eat a $600,000 increase next year is what you're saying then.
We're,
That's what,
we're eating $1 million increase in pension, but you're not mentioning that.
Mayor, let's talk about the garbage fees though. I can't discuss, pension fees to me are a different discussion. The reality is this, our garbage fees are going by $600,000 next year. If what you're telling me is we are legally bound by the fee we're charging today, then I'll just drop my argument then. That's all. Like, I'm not going to sit here and debate legalities about a garbage fee increase. Like, if you're the lawyer, Joel, like, I'm not going to debate this with you. Obviously, you're
Joel,
much more,
I'm sorry, Peter. Joel,
I don't get it.
Just a question. I think if I'm hearing you correctly, you're saying that the state is mandating in language form that we cannot increase based on the garbage fees. We have to go by what the budget is actually telling us versus, I hear what people saying, it sounds the same way, but I think the language of it, we're stuck with it, the state.
Yeah, I shouldn't say states that it could be a blend of, there's case law. Let's put it that way. When this issue came up decades ago by some people who objected to certain fees, the research at the time was that municipalities are constrained to not to create profit centers out of fees such as this. So that while I understand that what Mr. Milan is saying is that if we have a $600,000 increase in the cost of our contract, we should just make up that increase. If the issue has been raised, so I can't be blind once the issue has been raised to just reflect the fact that the test should be, what is the cost of that service going to be? Build in a reasonable cushion for collections or whatever, and you would not really have a right to just increase it if the fees that you're charging already is sufficient to cover the contractual obligations, which would include our overhead. I mean, there's a whole mathematical formula to determine, and which I'm not in any way equipped to comment on. I'm relying on what I've just heard, that we have enough money based on the revenues that we should be getting based on our current fee structure to cover the cost of taking care of refuse pickup for the city residents. That answers that question, that we can't just say, okay, we got a budget gap here, and let's fill it by increasing the garbage collection fee. The place to increase it then would be income taxes.
So theoretically, those three line items should be zeroed out then, correct? That we're looking at on the screen? The three increases, they should be zero, correct? So we can't
You asked
consider,
for scenarios, so I gave you scenarios.
well, but according to the solicitor, we can't do this. So I think we should just like disregard it then. If that's the case.
Well, the other thing is, Peter, Easton residents are paying the highest by a large number in almost the entire state. We can't find a city that charges more for trash than we do. So we should be mindful of that as well.
Mayor, but here's the thing, again, I mean, that spreadsheet you sent last night, with all due respect, look, we're not comparing apples to oranges here. Like, we're not really having the same comparison. You're giving me straight numbers, and I get that, but there's so many more variables to include in that analysis. You know, what's the population? You know, how many times do they pick up? I mean, these are things that you throw numbers at me as if they're meaningful, and I get it that they pay less than we do, but you're not including a full like comparable analysis to what they're getting for and what we're getting. We live in an urban environment. We have 27,000 residents. They have much more, you know, they have more trips to the dump. I mean,
You know, I'd suggest there's two things you look at. One is the appropriateness, but the other thing is there a desire to increase trash collection fees if the amount of the cost is covered or by the fees that are already being charged? I mean, it should be your, I'd suggest your initial legislative determination. If the majority of council believes that the trash bills as they are right now is sufficient, knowing that it will cover both the contractual cost and the city's general overhead in administering and providing this service, and that there's no desire to otherwise increase the trash bill, we don't need to get into this existential discussion as to whether we should be, whether if we did so, we'd be violating, you know, some case law that deals with certain limitations on what municipalities can charge for fees. Again, where there's no options.
Dr. Ruggles.
So maybe you should just get a consensus of whether there's a desire to be looking further into this.
Dr. Ruggles.
I mean, really, our discussion here is to try to do away with the 200 and some $1,000 that's in the, I mean, that's really the discussion. And the idea here is that this budget, as you had said, is a transition year budget. We don't know how we're going to end up this year. We don't know what's going to transpire as far as next year, as far as the budget is concerned. And I think what we have here is we have 4 items that are potential things that we can go back to next year as we approach March or whatever the timeline is on this. And we can go back to these. These aren't things that I think we have to integrate into this budget just to eliminate that $240,000 or whatever it is. I mean, it can sit in there, and as we go through, as we see how we end this year, and as we go through next year and see how the economy recovers or whatever is going on, we can make adjustments. And I view these items here as potential items where we can make that adjustment. I mean, just the pools itself is $240,000. That's the number that we're looking at, basically. Parking meter, way over that. I'm sorry?
100,000.
Okay, but I mean, parking meters are well over that. And even if we did a half year on parking meters,
That's what I said for initially, that we wait until February at the earliest to make, because with the accrual is going to put money back into this year's budget. And you know what? I would be more inclined to do parking meters than trash. Parking meters are primarily used by outsiders who come to our city to dine at our restaurants or go to our theaters or go to our Crayola experience, and trash is paid by our residents. So yeah, I may be inclined to do that. But I would love to be able to think that through. But I mean, some reason there's rumors out like I want to lay off people. No, I need more people. Our public works department is stretched as far as it can go. We need more people, not less people. When I was here before, I had 100 more employees. AFSCME was 150 strong. Today, it's not half of that. I said, you know, these rumors are stupid. People that spread rumors are stupid. But, you know, but I would love to think it through. Bethlehem already went to $1.50. Allentown's at $3 on event nights at PPL. I would like to see us, I'm much more in favor of user fees by people who are not residents. I supported and introduced and recommended the commuter tax, which goes against all my economic development strategies. Oh, come to Easton with all your jobs, but your people are going to pay 0.45% more. No, but we did it because they were coming to our city. I just feel that our residents need a little bit of a break. I mean, you know, and it's not because we can't raise property taxes, but we raise property taxes. So somebody says to me, you can't raise property taxes. Yeah, we can. We're at 24.95, but we're only at 14 mills for general fund. So I could go up 11 mills. So we can raise 1 mill and match that $241,000. But it's only paid by 60% of the people. The county doesn't pay a dime, and neither does the college, nor schools, nor churches, or anything else. So why put it on general fund? So the city's philosophy in the past was put on water, sewer, and garbage, and that's why our rates got out of hand. But right now, I'd look at raising the rates of parking meters without an eye. If it was a choice between raising parking meters or trash fees for our residents, I'd go with the parking meters.
And I just might add, Mayor, I think that there's a lot of potential for doing things such as Allentown did, where they have certain regions where they charge more for the parking meter because they're just in a better spot, more or less, you know. I mean, so I think there's some scenarios that we could have with the parking meters that we could probably fairly easily get that $240,000 and maybe not have an overall increase, but maybe have regional increases.
Roger, and so we've been debating on that idea for some time, and part of that strategy is to implement some sort of a more aggressive dynamic pricing model for parking. Dynamic meaning that it could change from block to block, where you have more premium spots, which we know we do just intuitively, versus the less attractive spots, if you will. Part of this plan that was laid out here, this budget, is even we're talking about converting the 3rd Street surface lot is to pay by mobile only. So even to jump away from kiosks and to go to certain areas that are just mobile only. We didn't quite articulate that, but the strategy is that eventually, not now, and I get it, but eventually we will probably move away from not even meters, but also from kiosks. But I know we're not there yet, but yes, that's a strategy. And then to your point, I want to remind everyone, because again, this is, like you said, a transition year. We've not only, I think we've held revenues from at 2000, I think they were coming into 2020 levels. And from there, we projected in no increases. So not only did you not get the increase, the normal increase, or not, actually, Mark, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know if we went 2020 or 2019 in some cases, but you're seeing like zero growth. In fact, it's like a negative, like 4 or 5% in some line items. So in other words, if we watch it, and if you do see a vaccine come out and everything that we're doing regarding promoting the downtown and outdoor activities has a positive effect on our economy, you could see better than expected returns on some of the revenues. But also this year, the fact that we're, launching this winter village could have a positive effect. We could end up the year a little bit better than we expected. And a little bit better, it could be a couple $100,000. That couple $100,000 could easily then be used for next year in the prior year undesignated line item. There's nothing that precludes us from doing that. So there are a lot of options.
For example, Dr. Ruggles, we projected in 2019, $6,700,000 in earned income tax. And last year we projected for this year's budget, 6.985 million. But next year we're only projecting 6.825, which is a minus 2%. So that's a 5% swing right there because you're not getting the 3% that you think people may get a raise next year. Now, most people aren't going to get a raise next year, but we should at least be able to meet our 6.9. There's $100,000 right there. As I said initially in my budget message, the last thing we want to do is furlough employees. I said that then, I'll say it now. I believe what I said in the public session before we came here, that I think what we should do is introduce this budget that brings it down to $241,000, and then review that budget each month to see how we did in February accruing back and seeing, if we, for example, the casino is doing a lot to try to get people into the casino. And in my mind, the only people that are really going there are the table games because they're the gamblers. We get our money from the table games. They may not be doing well overall, but I think the average person who's not a gambler goes in and plays slots. But the gambler goes in and plays table games. So we may do better than we thought we were going to do. But I believe that this budget should be introduced the way it is, bringing it from 640 to 620 to $241,000, and then work every month to try to dwindle that down to zero. And I'm willing to do that, even if it means eliminating some of our positions and delaying it. Dr. Ruggles.
Just a quick question. After the end of the year, what's the time frame that we would recognize what if we had a surplus from 2020? When would we realize that?
The end of February.
Remember, we're plugging the hole, so there's no, so we wouldn't have a surplus. I'm just very careful to use that language because we're using at least 1.23 million from the scoop and toss to plug that hole. But that's just a matter of semantics. Let
me rephrase it.
No, it's all right. It's all right. That was just
how would we know? How long would it be before we knew that we had money that could be funneled into the 2021 budget?
I mean, I would push. I would push our finance team and our audit team, our auditors, to try to get something sometime in the early part of the second quarter to get an idea. I would push it.
I was going to say end of the first quarter, but you're probably right. More like the beginning of the second quarter.
Somewhere around there.
But I think that still provides us with sufficient time to make any adjustments that we need in the budget. I mean, just looking at what we have in front of us here, I think that it's just these items are potential items that we can act on. But
because you could wait till July 1 to put up your parking fees, and you're going to get $250,000.
Right.
Cover it.
The only thing I wouldn't recommend this year is that, but again, this is up to council, and it's easier saying it as a city administrator because I don't deal with necessarily with the political consequences with your constituents per se. But I'm not a fan of providing a parking holiday. It really hurts the city budget. So meaning, not zeroing out meters and providing free parking. I know it's a tough decision. It's easier said than done on my end, but it's a deep cut to the revenue when we provide a holiday on parking, because it helps support the city in many of our services.
Good point. Well, I go back to my recommendation I made in the stated session that we introduce the budget as presented in the packet and that we work over the next 90 days to dwindle that down to zero in the employee savings position. That's my recommendation.
I'm trying to see that.
I feel that.
Because,
we
I'm
could-
sorry, go ahead, Roger.
I'm sorry. I just said, I think that we have a lot of tools available to us, and I'm one that I don't want to see any layoffs this next year. And to me, right now, that's just a placeholder for us to plug the gap in the budget, realizing that we have tools that can make that go away. And I think that's exactly what we should do. I think we need to, I mean, just because things change so dramatically all the time, and the future is not very well known, you know, buying us an extra 90 days or whatever it is will allow us to make better decisions at that point in time. And it's not going to hurt us. I mean, I don't see any negative to it. So
That's the luxury we had, and Roger, I couldn't put it even better than that you already said, but that's the luxury that we have, being that it's a moving target right now. We got may have some help down the road where we can plug in. We have that option.
I agree. I would go back into council chambers, well, not physically, but virtually, and make a motion to accept the budget, pass Bill 32 and 33 as presented in the packet, knowing full well that the goal in the next 60 to 90 days is to reduce the $241,000 down to zero in employee savings line. And it may be one of the scenarios on the bottom. I'd be very honest with you, I don't think it'll be pools. I think it'll be either parking meters or trash collection revenue.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
You'll only be introducing, not passing.
I meant introducing. Thank you.
Mark,
Anyone have any other ideas? I mean, I'd be more than happy to listen to them.
Mark, could you scroll back up to the above line 39? If you could show from line 3 through 39, that would be great. Just a review again of all these line items. And council can increase. You can increase your view options and increase the resolution on your computer to see that better.
Well, these changes aren't being included in the budget that we're voting on. We're introducing tonight, correct?
No, these are the changes that were submitted because of our deadline issue last Friday. So this is actually what you have in the budget. The mayor proposed going back to his original budget and having the discussion, but now the proposal is to go back to this budget that was submitted last Friday in your packet.
Budget that we presented, there was nothing up until this point that city council had any changes. What we're recommending here as a way of reducing the furloughs is primarily delaying hiring or eliminating positions. That's the biggest here. I mean, there's some other things like the vehicles and the healthcare, but for the most part, we don't feel the impact of the budget until probably the second quarter when we can start hiring people again, but definitely by the fourth quarter when we can hire for 2022. The idea is not to eliminate these positions. The idea is to delay their hiring to save the money in that bridge budget for next year. Coming down to the 241, yeah, I mean, look, we may have people retire in December and you can't fill a position here for 90 days. There may be savings right there. But we're delaying the hiring of some really critical positions like highway equipment operators. But we don't expect a bad winter this year. But if we get stuck with a bad winter, we'll end up having guys work longer because it's going to take longer for fewer guys and ladies to plow the streets. So I think Dr. Ruggles is right. What I said initially is let's wait till at least February or March to see what our year end looks like. I think our year end is looking good. If you look at our year to date totals that Mark provided, it's starting to look like, you know, we're fortunate. I mean, I think of a city, and Lewis knows this as well as I do. I think of a city like York that can't refinance their way out of a $14 million hole. They're looking at selling off assets. We don't have to look at selling off assets. If we sell off an asset, we could do that with putting the money into the bank and taking the, not touching the corpus, but every year taking the interest and putting it into our general fund. They're selling their plant and using it for this year. I mean, they get no, I mean, I would never do that. I think you're selling a capital item and putting it into an operating fund. That's the worst financing you can do. That's like buying your groceries on a credit card.
So let
I
me
just
just
wanted to-
let me just be very clear about something then. So we're not introducing the mayor's budget tonight then. The budget that we're introducing tonight is in the packet, correct?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, okay. We've gone back and forth about 4 times on that specific point.
Yes.
So we are not using the mayor's budget from October then?
No.
Okay, thanks.
The other thing I would like to also point out is, you know, with Hearst coming in, there are revenues there that we're not sure of. And, you know, again, probably 90 days into next year, we'll get a little bit better understanding of what those potential revenues are coming from them being here. And I mean, that's just one, but I think that, you know, things like that will be only beneficial.
I agree.
Well, we'll get the answer on the MS4 question resolved. Like you said, 'cause that's $60,000 potentially, you know, that could be moved over. I don't think we can, but we'll get you the answer. But if we can, then you got one, Roger.
I mean, that's $60,000. You eliminate the 240 down to 180. I mean, that's a pretty good that's a good swing real quick. That's one position that can come back after we get down to 0.
But then remember, we want to, and we want to look at some of those positions where we defunded, and you know, and maybe you bring some of the, if things get better than expected, you start bringing back some of those positions. So it's going to be, if this year was a year of budget cuts and amendments, hopefully next year is a year of budget increases and amendments.
Let's hope so.
Well, I would be in favor of moving or introducing the budget as submitted in our packet, Ken. And so, I mean, I don't know how everybody else feels, but I think that that's a good point to be at the end of this year, and then work over the first 90 days of next year just to fill that $240,000 gap that we have for so that would be my proposal.
That would be my suggestion also.
I'm in agreement with that also.
Me too. I'm in agreement.
Okay, everybody, and it sounds like everybody's in agreement, but we got to work. We can't let this waddle. We got to make sure we work on this for the next, you know, not in December or January, but certainly in February. We got to start working on whittling that down. I'm in favor of that.
Well, Mayor, Mayor, you can start now because you know, Mark has submitted October's numbers. So at the next council meeting, go through line by line and see what the variances are for up or down, and ask questions. Question everything.
Yeah. That's why I said, look, you know, my initial cursory review is, you know, we, you know, the old saying about emergency management, you plan for the worst and hope for the best. And I think we did that. Anyone else before we go into our regular session and introduce Dr. Ruggles? And Mr. Brown will introduce him, and Dr. Ruggles is going to second, from what I understand, the Bill 32 and 33.
It's just introduced, no second needed.
I know, I meant just introduced, right? Okay, let's break off from the budget meeting, and we're going to go back into the regular stated session. I'm going to call that meeting back to order. We have 3 people in attendance, Mr. Clerk, and we had a high of 12, so you know.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. We're back in stated session, Mr. Clerk.
Okay, we have bill number 32 being introduced by Kenneth Brown, an ordinance providing revenues and appropriating specific sums to be required for the city budget during the fiscal year of 2021.
So introduced.
We have bill number 33 being introduced by Kenneth Brown, fixing the tax rate for all city purposes for the year 2021.
So introduced.
That's it.
I'll now entertain a motion to adjourn.
Adjourn.
Moved in second, roll call.
Moved and seconded by who?
Dave O'Connell.
Okay, thank you. Mr. O'Connell,
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles,
Aye.
Mrs. Volcano,
Aye.
Mayor Panto,
Aye.
Mr. Brown,
Aye.
Mr. Ettinger,
Aye.
Mr. Milan.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Have a good Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving to all.
Next meeting will be the 9th, Mayor.
The next meeting is the 9th, and I'll see you all at the
All right.
big game. Go Rovers.
Hey, well,
Yeah, right.
See you Friday. See you Friday.
You're going to Maloney by yourself.
I'm gonna watch it on TV.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm going to a bar at 5:01 so I could be thrown out.
Joel, I'm sending you my comments to your memo, and then maybe you and I can talk tomorrow.
Okay, yeah, well, we're gonna talk at 9 tomorrow?
See you at 9.
Okay. That means 9:07 Campos time.
Thanks, Joel. Which means
Well,
9.